Hi, everybody. Welcome to
Powered by
another
Riverside
episode
FM.
of Talks Tamiya. I'm back in the virtual studio again with my good friend Phil from Poor Boys RC. Phil, how are you doing today?
Hello, everybody. Hello, Craig. I'm doing great, man. I'm doing awesome. I'm wrenching away on a few projects right now. One of those days where you work on 10 things and accomplish nothing? One of those days, but hey, a bad day of wrenching is still a good day, right?
Absolutely. That's part of the hobby, isn't it? Getting down on the workbench and then realizing that you've spent an hour and a half doing absolutely nothing, but you've had a lot of fun while doing it.
Trying to figure out a way to have baseball mitt-sized hands and work on a Losi Micro T. That's the challenge of the week this week over here at Poor Boys.
It's never going to work. It's never going to
It's not
work.
going to work. It's not
I,
going
I
to work.
spent some time this week taking apart a ready to run RC that my nephew had smashed up. He drove it into a fence post and he buckled the axle pin that holds like the arms inside where the arm meets the body. And I just could not get this thing out. And I posted it up on YouTube and I said, has anyone ever done something like this before? And he also wrecked the chassis. So the chassis is toast as well. And I had
Beautiful.
thought that I could have just taken a Dremel to it and drilled this thing out. And there was some guy on YouTube who went, well, just if the chassis is no good, just drill it apart now and take the out. I went, oh, that's a really good idea. I spent an hour and a half trying to get this thing out, and I could have just ripped it open with a Dremel. So guess what I'm doing over the weekend.
Wrenching, and more wrenching.
Absolutely. I had to give him a different car though, because I think his buggy might be beyond repair. So I had to give him something. He's got a loaner at the moment, so I'm waiting for him to come back with that in pieces in the next couple of weeks.
I had a Losi Double XL. Remember those? The
Yeah.
LST2 Double XL. Actually, I still have it. I've had it for a long time. But that thing, I would send it way in the air before big bashing. Before YouTube was really a thing. That was my big basher truck, and I would bend those hinge pins all the time. So I know your pain because when you're trying to get them out, they don't want to come out, do they?
Not at all. No, this thing's absolutely in there pretty tight, but
Yeah.
we'll find a way. The thing is, I took the whole thing apart, Phil, and I didn't remember how I took it apart. I've got no instructions. I've got no evidence that tells me how I'm going to put this back together again. All I've got now is a big jar of bits. So when I do get this hinge pin out, I've got to try and build this whole thing back up again from memory. And you know what it's like when you get old. Your memory's not what it used to be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
hey, all good fun, right? All good fun.
Good
So,
problems to have.
I thought we'd kick off today by going through our usual what's coming from Tamiya over the next month or so. And as typical, as we get into the summer, it seems to quieten down in Tamiya releases. So the big one, no pun intended, is the Big Wig, which is going to be landing in June, I think, across all markets, or at least that's what Tamiya is telling us, which should be good. Is that on your hit list at all, Phil? You've
It
already
is
got one,
not
haven't you?
because, yes, that's right. I've got one right behind me on the wall. And if I didn't have one, I would definitely be grabbing one. I strongly recommend for all you guys out there that are listening that are thinking of, man, do I want one? Grab one. It's a different vehicle altogether. And, not just from a look standpoint, but just the way it handles. I think I said in the last podcast we did, they called it the Big Pig back in the day because it's got so much weight. And it was designed to run off a 7-cell, 8.4 volt, which was pretty revolutionary at the time, and it was designed to run off that bigger battery because to offset the weight, give it a little bit more power. So if you're a Tamiya fan and you just want to experience a different kind of RC, the Big Pig is the way to do it.
There was a couple of buggers around that time that were meant to run off the 8.4s, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think which other ones were designed with the 8.4 in mind. I know the Big Wig was. I'm trying to
I
think
think the
whether
Bruiser didn't the Bruiser come with a hump pack as well? Maybe it was a 6-cell hump pack because just the way it was designed.
yeah, we had a hump pack in our Grasshopper and our Hornets back in the day. I seem to remember it was a 5-cell with one on the top, and or two on the top, and it used to go in like the hump.
Yeah, yeah.
But there was others where they designed the body was kind of like widened, so that extra cell didn't hang out over the edge. It was like a longer. I can't remember. I said my memory's not all what it used to be.
Yeah, I feel you, buddy. I feel you.
So we've got the Big Wig coming. We've got the TRF 104 chassis kit, which is the Formula One type style body shell and chassis. I would love one of those, but I've got nowhere to run it.
That's the problem with it, right? You need to have the right place to run it, and they're not cheap either. You know, for
Mm.
what you get, I mean, it's a pretty, I mean, it's beautiful. The parts are beautiful, the carbon fiber, lots of nice bling on there. But I don't know the price point off the top of my head right now, but I did know it a little while ago, and it's a TRF price point. It's up
Yeah,
there.
they're not cheap. They're not cheap at all.
Yeah,
I mean, back in the day, and I did those sort of catalog flick throughs, and I recently got the 50-year anniversary booklet from Japan that I think we talked about on the last podcast. And in there, I was amazed at how many F1 body shells there were, body kits and chassis back in the day. And I think I said this before. I just wish Tamiya could get a decent license for that. F1's
that would be a
hot.
game changer. Yeah.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, sell loads of them. They would sell absolutely loads of them.
I used to race in Edmonton, Alberta, back in the early 2010s, 2010 to 2014 or 15 or so. I raced out there, and at one point on the indoor circuit that we raced at, they were racing the F1s, the Tamiya F1 cars, and it was really nice to watch. We're talking, you know, indoor carpet through the winter.
Mm,
So it's really nice to watch because they look so elegant going around the track. Drivers had to be really careful when driving because it's open wheel. You know, you touch a wheel and you are done. So it was really exciting that way. But a good friend of mine, his name's RJ. He's listening. RJ, shout out to RJ in those old racing days. He was trying to get his dialed in. I remember him just struggling to get that thing to work and get around the track. But once he got it dialed in, boy, I'll tell you, they run so nice and they look so good.
yeah, we need more F1 cars, Tamiya, please. Let's get some F1 bodies and let's bring it back. You heard it here first on Talks Tamiya.
That's right.
So we've got another Scania 770, one of these great big truck cab things. And one day, Phil, one day I am going to make some time and I'm going to have a go at that. And I'll know the pain that Glenn's going through over at Riviera RC, you know, finding all the time to paint all those bits and get that thing built and the space to build it up. And one day it's going to happen, but not anytime soon. But they've got another one of those. And then they've got a Audi R8 LMS 2008 spare body set coming. And that was the list that I picked up at the start of the month. And then they dropped a couple of extras a little bit later on during this month. And there is a pre-painted Porsche 911 GT3R on the TT02. And there's a pre-painted Peugeot 306 Maxi on your favorite, the BTO chassis.
Favorite all time.
Your favorite of all time, yeah, especially like shims. And then they've announced two hop-up options for the DTO4. One of which is a freewheel axles, which I think are that they've done that so people can get the front axle pieces. That means they can make any DT chassis a front hex mount rather than the sort of traditional bearings. And they've announced some carbon damper stays for the DTO4, which I'm very interested in picking up because I love my DTO4. I've driven it a couple of times now, and the more I drive it, the more I like it.
Makes sense. I'm in the same boat, buddy. I love it. I did try taking it to the track recently where I had a pretty hard time getting it around. But I had a really slow steering servo in there and my weight wasn't set up right. I mean, I needed to do a little bit of tuning before I was ready for the track, but I think I'll be able to get it back to the track this coming weekend with some upgrades, some better tires and things like that that will really get it moving. But um, it's an awesome chassis and it's that segment of RC cars that I love so much. Amazing looks, just cool and funky, kind of retro throwback feel, low price point, but you can tune it up and do cool stuff with it. DCO4 is a winner.
I think so too. I absolutely agree. I think the tyres are probably the one thing that could be better on there. They seem to allow it to understeer too much. Was my experience of it driving out on the dirt. It didn't go where I wanted to. But I know you could stick on some staggers on the front and it would completely change the way it handles. So that's my plan with it. I'm going to stick some staggers on the front of it, maybe change the rear tires out, and we'll have something that'll handle as well as all the other DT chassis, if not better, because that steering rack is just super smooth at the front.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's a nice steering rack, and I think what you're talking about is the kind of one of the cruxes of that chassis is that understeer that you get with those stock front tires. A lot of guys said they have the same problem. Just swap out your front tires to something a little bit better, and it'll feel like a completely different buggy.
Yeah, I've been using a lot of Schumacher tyres on the buggies, and I can't remember who mentioned those two. I've been Andy Robinson, said to me that if you swap them out for some Schumacher tires, it will transform the handling of the back then it was a DTO2, DTO3. I'm absolutely sure it'd be exactly the same with that DTO4. If you swap those tires out, it will just hook up so much better on the certainly on the dirt and on the grass that I drive on. And then a decent set of Astro tires or carpet tires for the indoor.
I picked up a set actually today. I picked up a set for mine. They are J Concepts Pin Swag
Oh, okay,
LT
yeah.
wide front pink compound. So I picked up a set of those. I got the wide fronts and kind of a standard 2.2 rear. So I'm excited to put those on. Actually, I bought two sets. I put one set on my Dune Master. I'm convinced I'm going to make a track buggy out of that. And then the DTO4, I got a spare set for it. And if it works, it works. If not, maybe I'll try them on the Super Astute. We'll figure something out. But I got to change the front spindles on the Super Astute to accept the 12 mil hex. So I'm working on figuring that out as well.
All these little challenges that we have.
So many challenges, so many fun RCs, so little time.
So why are you going with the 12 mil hex on the front of the Super Astute?
Really, just because I don't want to have to spend more money on different wheels and tires.
Mm.
Everything seems to be 12 mil hex in the race scene, and to have some interchangeability with tires and wheel combos would be really convenient for me. So if I can switch that over to a 12 mil, I think it would just make things a little bit easier.
It always seems to be quicker as well to get them off
Yes, 100%.
than having to sort of like work out how you knock the bearings out of the middle. Sometimes they get jammed in there and they're difficult to get out, and it just seems so much easier if they're on a hex. You can just get it off and get it back on pretty quick.
That's right. And the stock front tires in the Super Astute, the wheels are very, very narrow. And I went with like a wider front with these J Concept tires.
Yeah, those Super Astute tires are also pretty useless unless you're running on dirt, aren't they?
Yeah, that giant ridge they have
Yeah.
on a carpet track, I don't think that's going to do you any favor.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw those, I was like, "What on earth are these? These are bizarre." And then I didn't run. I put them on the Madcap, and I didn't run them until recently. And actually, they're really good on the dirt. Really good on the dirt. At least I found they were good on the dirt on the my track. But
I could see
yeah,
them really working, like hooking up really well on some tight sand as well.
yes, yeah, they cut in. They cut in. So when
Yeah.
you're turning in, the car comes around or seems to come around a lot quicker. But these days, a lot of tracks don't look like that
Yeah, that's right.
unless you're racing on a bumpy Orchard Raceway.
As one does.
So, segue, as always, I'm becoming legendary for my segues into the next thing we're talking about. Hero Tamiyas for the month. Now it's my choice this month, and I wanted to pick the Orchard Raceway champ, the Top Force Evo,
Beautiful.
because do you know what? I've driven quite a lot of RCs now over the last sort of 4 years of being back in the hobby, and I think out of all of them that I've driven, I think the Top Force Evo is probably my favourite RC that I've driven on the track. And it just does everything right out of the box. It's the first RC that I've built that's clearly at high spec. It's clearly been engineered nicely, and I just got it right. There was no mistakes made in building that. The high caps went together nice. Chassis was easy enough to build up. The gearbox was simple. It all went together nicely, and it just drives and handles bang on, perfect. There's no
Yeah.
complaints at all. And I was actually surprised at how easy it was to drive. When I was, because it won last year, and the laps just started getting faster. And the more I drove it, the more confident I became. And it just kept getting faster and faster and faster and faster. I got some big hopes for it this year, Phil. I'm not lying. I think it's going to be hard to beat.
Well, when you announced it as a car, because last year was the first year you had it on
It
the
was.
Orphan Raceway series, right? Yeah. When you announced that, I was like, this is, I think, like right at the start of the season, I said, that's the one that's going to win.
You did. You called it
And it did.
out of the bag.
And I can say, buddy, like I built and drove mine, and it's just a different experience when you're used to the plastic chassis Tamiyas that are, a little bit on the sloppy side, and they can behave a little on the wacky side. Then you compare that to a Top Force Evo, which is really a race spec buggy, and it is a completely different driving experience. That thing is just like glued to the ground, handles like it's on rails. It is gorgeous, and the build experience, man, it's so nice the way that all the pieces fit together so perfectly, and oh my gosh, what
I
a
wish
nice
I,
build.
I wish I could go back and build it again now
Yes, yeah,
because I wouldn't do it differently, but I would. enjoy it more and savor it more. That's the thing. I look back and when I built that, and then I built the Optima Mid literally straight after because I wanted to compare those two cars side by side. And I think I rushed the build on the Evo slightly because I wanted to get to the mid. And I look back now and I wish I'd taken more time on that Top Force Evo build.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, buddy.
At the time as well, I wasn't sure when I was putting it together. I loved the chassis. I wasn't sold on the body until I put it all together. And then I sat back and looked at it. I went, actually, I can see it now and understand why it's got this design, this shape, because it's just iconic. It's fantastic. I think it's a fantastic looking buggy, and it's got the drivability to go with it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The side profile of the Top Force and the Top Force Evo, just that giant wedge side profile is just, it's such a thing of beauty. I've made running videos with both my Top Force and my Top Force Evo, and both times I make sure to get some good just side shots where you really see that side profile in action. I love
Yeah.
it. It's such an iconic, he's kind of look, 80s, 90s sort of look and feel. Just that high wing with the big downforce angle to it, and what a thing of beauty, man. I love that buggy.
Now, what's interesting with mine is at the time I was building mine, it has those orange wheels on it as out of the box as standard. Mini OAG had been sent a TTO2B that had a pink body, a metallic pink body, metallic silver wheels. And I remember her seeing the wheels on the Top Force, and she said, "Can we swap?" And I saw her metallic silver wheels, and I went, "Yeah, we can swap." The wheels on my Top Force, that's what they should have put on them out of the box. It just looks beautiful. Silver wheels with the gunmetal grey body shell. It just looks fantastic. Absolutely stunning.
That is one thing about the wheels on the Top Force Evo is that it's that recycled wheel that's on
Yeah,
so many Tamiya buggies in it. I think on the higher spec buggies, they should really get away from that wheel because it's the same wheel that it ends up on a lot of the lower spec buggies. And I actually I like the design of it, but when you're going to spend $600 on a kit versus 200, you'd almost want to see a nicer wheel on there.
was that one of the first ones they used? The Star Dish wheels, aren't they?
Yes, that's right.
Was the
Yeah.
Top Force and the Top Force Evo one of the first times Tamiya used that wheel? Now that's one for us to look up for next time, but I think that was probably one of the first places that wheel went on.
Yeah, you could be right. I'm looking at it now on the wall behind me, and and directly below it in my collection, I've got my TD4 Super Avante, and it's got those same wheels.
Yeah,
And I remember when I had TD4. I hate to keep coming back on the TD4 and pooping on it, but here we go again. But you know, the original Avante had those camlock wheels. They're so iconic. I don't think they were ever used on anything else.
no,
And then the Super Avante TD4 came out, and it had just that same stock wheel that you get on everything. And I remember being really let down by that. They really could have done something with the wheels on that.
they could have done. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Maybe they're
What
gonna.
if they should have did?
Maybe they're saving it. Maybe they're saving it for the next the 50-year celebrations.
There we go. Stay positive. They'll
Stay
do it.
positive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Stay positive. And
So
always come through with it.
a hero Tamiya for the month is the Top Force Evo. So it's your pick next time, Phil. So get your thinking cap on
All
as
right, I definitely will. All right, I'm
which
thinking
Tamiya
already. The gears
hero
are turning.
we'll be talking about next time. So we had a listener write into the channel. So I suppose it's a good time for us to say if you've got any questions for Phil and I to discuss or anything you want us to pick up, please get in contact with one of us and let us know what you'd like us to talk about on the podcast, and we'll try and work it in for you. Which is just what Peter LaFontaine did. He wrote in and he said, I just found the podcast. It's great stuff. Maybe you guys could talk about how the improved tech has pulled us back in and how we now have a much better experience with the RCs that we loved as kids, as big old kids. So for me, it's difficult, Phil, because I'm not picking up a lot of the new technology that's coming out because I'm kind of stuck in my ways a little bit. And I like my big old nickel metal hydride packs because they're safe. And I like my brushed motors because they're safe. I don't run bushings, I do run bearings, but I don't like too much of the modern stuff. What I do like is that the modern RCs tend to have little refinements done to them where they've improved some of the stability or they've improved some of the plastic. Or, I mean, if you're a Kyosho Legendary buggy, you've had the whole drivetrain reworked to cope with modern power. And they're so much more nice to build because they've got all the slipper clutches built in and they've thought about that stuff. But I steer away from a lot of those more modern advances into RC. Where do you sit on this?
Well, I think that's a great question, Peter, and thanks for writing in and asking. I think that's awesome. It's awesome having viewer questions, not viewers, sorry, listeners. It's a podcast, not a YouTube channel, isn't it? I got to change my verbiage a little bit here. Great question. I'm going to go back to my first memory of my first ever hobby grade RC, my Tamiya Midnight Pumpkin. I think it was around my birthday, 1988, whenever I got it. And not realizing how a mechanical speed controller really worked at the time. I did not have my throttle servo. Yes, the throttle servo for all you young people listening. I did not have my throttle servo in the correct location, and I was on full speed, like third gear, full speed
No.
forward when I plugged my battery in. And, the wheels just start spinning uncontrollably. And, what the heck am I doing here? So, gone are those days, right? And so enter the day of like the ESC. That's just everywhere. I think that's a huge step. First of all, I think that's a huge step. Everything that comes with an ESC these days versus MSCs or manual speed controllers of the old school days. There
Do you
were
know what? I agree with you. I agree with you, but I just want to interject there because there is something that I do miss, and that is the way that an MSC switches between forward drive and back drive so quick. It's almost instant. And the way
yes,
the wheels would change when you hit that when you brake. There's a as my intro video for the YouTube channel. There's a raider going around the track, and I hit and that's got an old MSC in it. It's my original car that I had back when I was a lad, and I hit the back on that, and you can see the rear wheels already spinning backwards in the dirt while the car's still moving forward, and you don't get that with a modern RC at all because the ESC doesn't let you do that.
I know that exact shot that you're talking about because whenever I watch your show and I watch the intro, I can see you're coming around that you're making a right turn
Yeah.
and you tap the brakes, but yeah, the wheels actually spin backwards for a second. So yeah, I mean, it was a different time, right? And the motors we were running weren't that powerful compared to what we have today. Our gearboxes were typically, very robust, big geared gearboxes, so they could do that. You could be doing 15 kilometers an hour forward and then hit it in reverse and not have everything go kaboom. Whereas, if you take a Relarlo speed car today and you're doing 180 miles per hour and you hit reverse, look out, that sucker's a grenade, right? It's not going to survive. So I think that's a big one that I really like because it's just safer and a little more predictable. Obviously, through more consistent throttle response as technologies improve, things like that have really made the cars more drivable, more enjoyable to drive and race. And then the other big thing is lipos, and you brought it up earlier that you're not so much there. I noticed it seems like a lot of guys in the UK still stick to the nickel metal hydride packs as opposed to switching to lipo. I'm 100% lipo and or lithium high voltage LIHV, which I've just started using, I'd say about 6 months ago. And, same kind of idea as a lipo. And I love them. And the fact I took my Kyosho Dune Master Racing last weekend on a 6400 milliamp LIHV pack from CNHL. And I'm not exaggerating when I say I must have run it for at least 40 to 45 minutes before it
Wow.
died. And it was a shorty pack. So like you want to talk about a small footprint, technology working for us. The motor wasn't, I'm sorry, the battery wasn't hot or swollen or stressed in any way. And it just worked. And it created perfect power, no voltage sag, nothing. 45 minutes on a track, which is absolutely nuts.
It all sounds far too easy though, Phil. You just plug a battery in, you run for 45 minutes. There's no stress about it starting to get a bit as you get sort of to the latter part of the race, the battery starts to get a bit thin and it doesn't got much power and you've got to manage the balance of that. It all sounds too easy running for 45 minutes, you know?
Yeah, it does. I don't even bring a charger to the track anymore. I just bring 2 recharge batteries. It's just less for me to carry around.
None of the people used to turn up with car batteries, didn't they? And they'd be like running jump cables off them to charge batteries up and all
That's
sorts
right. That's
of
how we
stuff.
did it.
We had
And you
a
take your nickel metal
cigarette.
hydride pack smoking hot, and you plug it in right away when you still had that bit of peak juice and
That's
your
right.
first
We
2
used to
laps
have
were the fastest.
a cigarette charger for the car. We used to do a trickle charge off the cigarette charger in the car.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, yeah, we used to. I mean, if you go all the way back to the NiCad days, I mean, you'd sit and charge that battery. I mean, we had a trickle charger. It would charge all night long, and we would literally go and play for 8 minutes, and that was it. That was your RC time for the day.
But the interesting thing was when you did a full discharge, meaning like remember you like hook it up to like a bunch of lights that are wired up in some
Yeah,
in a series of lights to completely drain that battery, and then you gave it that long 12, 15-hour trickle charge, and that next day that battery was the best that battery would ever be. You get 8 minutes instead of 6.5, and that extra minute and a half, that was like pure glee as a kid.
it was golden time, wasn't it? It was golden time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I must admit, for me, I find that the nickel metal hydride batteries are a step forward from where I remember it as a kid. That is a step on. I'm not a big fan of the ESCs. Certainly the ESCs, I use cheap ESCs, and I do find some of them can be intermittent. Even the Hobbywing 1060s, which people swear by those things. And I've had so many problems with different iterations of those where you get the Carson Dragster one that now comes with some of the Tamiyas, and they're not as good. They're not as good. At least with the mechanical speed controller, you could clean it up, get your cotton buds out, and sort the connectors out, and it was good to go again. And you knew it was being powered by a servo, so I kind of understood how it all worked. With the ESCs, I've got no clue. Once it goes, it just goes up in smoke. You get that horrible smell. You chuck it in the bin. You have to go and buy another one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and they do seem to be hit and miss sometimes. You're right. I've had a few people tell me that the 1060 from Hobbywing, which seems to be kind of the staple, go-to ESC, brushed ESC for most people these days, having issues with them, like kind of dead on arrival. And if not dead on arrival, they plug a battery in, they get the big poof of smoke, and that's it. Maybe I'm lucky. I've never had that happen to me with a Hobbywing 1060. The Tamiya TBLE02S, I believe it's called, that used to come with all of their kits that came with ESCs. That's happened to me twice with that ESC where it's brand new and I just plug it in and poof, it goes up. So that one is not my favorite. I don't even think Tamiya bothers making it anymore. I think they just put a Tamiya part number on a Hobbywing now. But
Yeah, it's a shame. I do miss those ESCs. I never had much of a problem with those, other than I had a dodgy servo or a dodgy set of servos that kept blowing out those Tamiya ESCs. When I swapped the servos out, they were fine, but someone said it was all to do with the amount of current that was running through the circuit or something like that. I can't remember entirely what was.
oh, interesting.
But
I
I've
wonder
had
if that,
plenty of issues with the hobby wings. More famously, when I was doing your speedrun challenges, and I thought that it should be able to cope with the motor that I put in there, and clearly it didn't. And then the whole thing started setting on fire and smoking, and I had a load of fire damage on my TTO2. That was a TTO2 speedrun challenge.
oh
Managed
yeah,
to set an ESC on fire during that, which was good fun.
a
But
lot of
yeah,
ESC burned up that year. They do every year. There's a lot of casualties in the speedrun challenge.
I suppose that the lipo argument, I steer away from lipos because of the extra precautions that you have to take. And I know you've got to be safe with any battery, but the lipos just seem to have that extra amount of admin that's required to balance charge them and then put them in storage charge when you're not running them. And that if I'm honest, I don't have that level of admin time for my battery management.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think that as technology has improved, and I'm talking like even the last 10 years, like lipos have been around for a long time. And I think they were a lot more volatile back in the day. We had lower C ratings, lower discharge ratings, which would, like back, 10 years ago, a 25C or 35C pack was the highest you could get. And we would overgear and we would do some pretty crazy things, really pushing these cars and really puffing up our lipos, really pushing them beyond what they were supposed to be able to do, and that would result in some accidents, some lipo fires, and
Yeah.
all sorts of terrible things. And everyone who's listening, take this with a grain of salt. They sell batteries, they sell LiPos or LHVs that are 130C. Now, there's an argument to say that nothing could be more or greater than 100C. For argument's sake, let's use a 100C rated pack, an authentic 100C battery pack. You're now in a different realm than somebody that was working with a 25C pack 10 years ago. And I've got some batteries, some old LiPos from like 10 years ago, and I just hang on to them because just for kind of, if anything, just kind of like memory's sake. They're not swollen or anything like that, but I did have some others that I did have to throw away that, I mean, they would get really swollen up and hot after a good run. And yeah, I just think the technology, lipo technology has changed significantly in the last, 5 to 10. And they're a lot safer today than they were. I mean, I keep mine in my house, which maybe some people say is nuts, but they're in lipo bags. I've probably got 50 lipo batteries, and
Wow.
touch wood, I've never had any issues.
Well, you're getting me on the fence a little bit more, Phil. I must admit, I am tempted, to try it out. But maybe one speedrun challenge one day, I'll enter the lipo category and I can see what the fuss is all about.
It is the biggest game changer, I think. When we go back to Peter's question, was it Peter or Pat? Sorry, I'm
Peter, it was
terrible.
Peter.
It was Peter. We go back to Peter's question of just advances in RC tech, and that's just one of the biggest ones if you ask me. Again, because you can get higher capacity nickel metal hydride packs now as well. I think 5,000 is pretty common. I don't know if you can get any higher than 5,000. Can you?
It's probably the max that it goes to.
Yeah, which is nice. I mean, you'll still get a lot of runtime out of a 5,000 milliamp nickel metal hydride,
Absolutely,
but
but they're heavy. They're heavy.
they're heavy, and a 5,000 milliamp lipo is just, it performs as good in the first minute as it does in the last minute. Before it hits
Yeah,
voltage cutoff, it just works. Whether you're bashing or racing, it's just nice to have that just consistent lap time, the consistency in your speed. You can better monitor your motor temps this way, knowing that it's not going to fluctuate. It's a huge jump in tech, and I think it's one of the best ones for the hobby.
I get you. I get you,
Mhm.
Peter. I hope you enjoyed that discussion. Thank you again for writing in. And if you want to hear us discuss your question, just like Peter, get in contact with us.
How
Right.
can they
Well,
get in contact with us, Greg?
you can write to me at the oag1 at gmail.com, or you can write to Phil at
At poorboysrc78 at gmail.com.
there you go. See? Look at that. It's like we've done it before, isn't it?
Bunch of professionals.
So it's that time in the podcast where we turn our attention to other RC news. And there's not been as much of it this last month or so. I know Tamiya did another show, didn't they, out in Japan somewhere? But there was nothing really new that came out of that warranted us talking about it. I didn't think, Phil.
No.
But what we have seen is another couple of RC10 releases get announced. There was the special for the guy who I can't remember his name, and you're going to correct me now and tell me who's
It's
the guy.
Brian Kinwald,
Thank you very much. Yep. So there was that one, and then
the
they've
late
also
great.
done a graphite something or other RC10.
That's right.
But I do think a lot of people are getting a bit burnt out. But I see it even from those people who love the RC10 are getting a bit burnt out by all these RC10 releases now.
That seems to be the general sort of consensus. I'm so thrilled that they're making these for us because these are just iconic cars. They changed the landscape of the entire hobby. This is the car that changed RC and took it from, guys racing grasshoppers, and hornets, to something legit that can actually get around a track and make you go, holy cow, that thing is incredible. They really are incredible, but I just think they're coming out so fast. A lot of people are having a hard time absorbing the speed. I mean, they're not cheap. In Canada here, you're going to spend taxes in. You're going to spend about $650 on one of these, and that's before you put electronics in it. So, it's an investment. And this is where I think, not to switch topics, but Kyosho has done an exceptional job with their legendary series because they kind of trickle feed us with them, and they make, you're kind of excited, and when they start talking about another one, it's just the buzz just it gets crazy. Associated, we love the cars, don't get me wrong, but they're coming out so fast. It's tough to stay on top of them all.
There must be a bit of buyer's remorse going on for people that have, they jumped in with the green special and went, oh, I've got to have the green special, and then they wait another 9 months and they're releasing the graphite, and people go, oh, yeah, if I'd have known they were going to do that, then I'd have waited and got that one, or the
Yeah,
green one, or and that must be really frustrating. You jumped in too early and then realised that if you'd have only waited another 12 months, you could have got the one that you really, really wanted. I'm still interested by the RC10, but I don't have. For me, they don't have the pull that I think they have for some people from back in the day. So I look at them and go, I'm intrigued to see what the fuss is all about, but I can wait now. There's so many of them around. They're so available. There's no rush now. I can just get one when I see one at the right price that I'm prepared to pay for it. Whereas before, when they first started bringing out back out the RC10, people thought that, well, this is going to be around for like 5 minutes, then it'll be gone, and you won't see it again for another 20 years. So get one while you can. And now there's just so many of them; they're everywhere.
that's right. Yeah, because Associated did start they did start re-releasing the RC10s. I believe it was 2013 or 2014. And I remember that specifically because, well, just poor timing in my life. I just got divorced, so I didn't have two pennies to rub together. I was paying for my ex-wife's education, God bless her. And so after I finished paying for my own. But anyway, I'm totally cool with that. That's totally fine. It was great. It was awesome. I love spending tens of thousands of dollars on someone who's not around anymore watching, these beautiful kits come out. And, they came out with I think they released a Brian Kinwald back then too.
Oh,
I
right.
want to say they did. I don't remember, but I wanted one so bad. I couldn't get my hands on it. And from what I understand, that 2013, 2014 run of Riri's was a pretty big failure on Associated's part.
Yes, they were selling them off really cheap towards the end, weren't they? Because they just had them all sat in a warehouse or on shelves. They couldn't get rid of them, and they were literally flogging them.
That's what I heard. I heard they couldn't get rid of them. And somebody told me, someone that I trust, that is really well sewn into the fabric of the RC community for many, many years, told me that they would never do it again. He knew people at Associated that they'd never do it again. Well, I guess fast forward a decade, here we are. And,
Yeah,
um, things change and retro's hot right now. Retro, everything's hot. You can't go wrong.
very
There's a
true.
high school by my house. There's kids walking around wearing like Megadeth and Garbage and Cranberries t-shirts. I'm like, do you even know who these bands are? They got baggy pants with rips in the jeans, and I'm like, these kids are actually pretty cool kids.
Yeah, my entire wardrobe has become refashionable again. It's
That's
like
right.
it all comes back around, doesn't it? As the next generation discover the history, that it all becomes fashionable again, which is kind of where we are with RC. I think at the minute there's a real rediscovering of it going on, which is great. The other re-release that's coming from Kyosho is the Turbo Optima Mid Special. The Toms has been
Um,
announced. And you spoke a minute ago about the way Kyosho have done their legendary series, and I really admire it. But they just the presentation of them, they make every single one really super special. And I don't have you watched the video recently, their marketing video for this. They've done a really sweet job of it.
they do such a good job, and you open the box, and it's Kyosho and Tamiya have done an exceptional job of really selling you the build experience as well as the kit that you're building and racing or bashing or doing whatever it is you're doing with. the I mean, Kyosho's legendary. A lot of them still, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all of them actually come with blister packaging still.
That's right.
Man, that just creates an elevated unboxing experience, an elevated build experience. It just feels special versus, and Associated guys, you're going to hate me for saying this, but you open an Associated box and it's just like, it's like a Walmart shopping cart. Everything will kind of throw it in there and, figure it out, bud. So, uh, we're
Just
comparing apples to oranges to some extent, but hey, man, if you want that special build experience, buy a Kyosho Legendary series because you're going to feel like a king of the hill.
I enjoyed. I built a an Optima Mid, and I built a Ultima. and I enjoyed both of them. Really, really enjoyed both of them. And I drove them all last season on the Orchard Raceway, and I enjoyed the drive. But what petrified me is if I broke them, the price of the spare parts for those buggies was in the UK was astronomical, and I just couldn't do it to myself. I couldn't think that I'd wrap it around a tree and end up with $100 repair bill, just on one buggy. It was just too much for me, so I had to back out of those, unfortunately. But I loved the build experience. I loved everything. I think they just look fantastic.
They're fantastic. You're right. And Kyosho's availability, at least in North America where I am, it's spotty at best. Yeah, I'm not sure how bad it is over there in the UK, but
It's the
it's
same.
is it? Yeah,
Yeah,
you don't
it
really see
seems
a lot of the parts in the hobby stores. And
they come back in and then they go out of stock pretty quick. If you want to get something specific, you've got to go shopping over in Japan for it, and you got to import it.
yeah.
Which,
Yeah,
yeah,
we can have a,
but there's going to be a lot of people, Phil, who are going to be very, very happy about that Tom's release.
absolutely. It's beautiful. Yeah. I think it's going to have that 700-ish dollar price point here in Canada, which makes it a little cost prohibitive for some people.
Hmm.
And I don't think that comes with an ESC or motor either. So if you really want to outfit it nicely and go full Le Mans, you know, expect to add another 300 Canadian dollars to that. So you're $1,000 into one of these things pretty quick.
Wow, wow,
Yeah, Le Mans
yeah,
motors are gorgeous. And the Le Mans ESC, I put one in my Kyosho Javelin. Shout out to Sean for sending that to the channel. But that Le Mans ESC, it's absolutely beautiful. It looks like it's like from the future. It's gorgeous. But they're $150.
yeah. They're not for wrapping around trees on the Orchard Raceway, are they?
No, no, that's what hobby wings are for. That's what 1060s are for. Let it go poof. Who cares? It was $40.
So another up and coming release that I don't think we spoke about last time we were together is Rolalo have got another rally chassis coming out, haven't they? They've got this 1/12 scale chassis coming,
They
which
do.
I think looks really nice fun. Now you got the 1/10th, didn't you? And you loved it, and I know Mark Bryan did as well because he did a video, and he absolutely he loves his rally cars, and he loved it as well. But the 1/10th scale there looked slightly too big for me. This 1/12th one looks bang on for me. It looks absolutely perfect, and I can't remember what the release schedule is for that. I thought it was almost imminent, but I've not seen anything else about it since.
I'm on the inside of that one, so I can't say a whole lot just yet. I do have one coming to the channel. Yeah, Rolardo's a great sponsor of Poor Boys RC. Shout out to Annie. She's the best. And so I do have one on its way to the channel for review. But
Nice.
I would check my notes, but they're on my phone, which I'm using right now to record this podcast. So in fear of wasting time and causing a major disruption, I'll just leave it there. But it is coming to the channel, and you're right, man. Like the X, sorry, geez, the names are XTSF. I might be screwing that up right now, but the 10 scale rally car from last year blew me away. I mean, it doesn't even make sense what that car can do. It's way too good. And yeah, the only downside I could find with it was the screws are made of a pretty soft metal. And they like to use red Loctite in the factory there, which can create some pretty annoying problems when you strip out a screw. Velardo's done a great job of listening to the customers. That's been a big complaint, and I hope that they just continue to improve because I've been saying it to a lot of people. Keep your eyes on this company. They are doing an amazing job. Their cars are really like a next level, and for what you pay, you cannot go wrong.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. The 1/12's got me keeping my eye on it, and I look forward to seeing how you get on with one on Poor Boys. So I'll keep my eye on that one, Phil.
Absolutely.
Right, we've done 47 minutes, and I think it's time for us to talk about what's going on our channels. We're getting towards the end of it, so let's start with what's going on at Poor Boys RC.
Poor Boys RC, what's going on in June and July? Nothing really.
No, no, no speed runs or nothing like that coming up.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot. Yeah, no, we've got a little speed run challenge happening. Thanks to everybody, by the way. I'm sure guys that are listening are like, "What's the chassis going to be?" I'm not going to tell you today, buddy. But there's
He
been
won't
so
even
many
tell. He won't
people.
even tell me, guys. He won't even tell me.
That's right. Just so everyone knows, even Craig asked, "Hey, any idea?" And I literally, I've got a few chassis that I've got in mind, but I won't make the decision till last minute. And I do it this way every year so that it just keeps the playing field level. And I think
Yeah.
that's really important in a contest like this where you just want it to be fun. And that's the intent here, is just to have some fun. We take a chassis that's not supposed to go fast, we make it go fast. And so that's the big one, buddy. We're going to announce the chassis June 1st. There's going to be a video on YouTube everybody can watch. We're going to talk about the chassis. We're going to reveal it. We're going to discuss all of the rules. We're going to have 3 classes again, like we had in the past. We'll have a brushed category where you run a brushed motor and you can run either nickel metal hydride or a LiPo battery. We'll have a brushless class where everyone's going to be running LiPos, brushless motors. And then we're going to have the open class, which is for the wild men out there who are into, 3D printing their own parts, making their own chassis, doing all the really ballistic upgrades to make your car special and to make it really, go fast and do what it's supposed to do. So that's all coming up soon. And then the racing itself will be from July 1st to July 31st.
So we have a month. We have a month to build our chassis.
That's right. We announced the chassis in June, so you have the entire month of June to, if you don't already have it, go buy the chassis, build it, start tweaking it to find out, hey, do I want to be brushed? Do I want to be brushless? How do I make it go fast? Do all those things you need to do to start getting the car tuned up to go fast. And then July 1st, game on. You start submitting your videos, uploading your videos to YouTube, sending them to me so I can watch them all. I don't miss them. And then we start keeping score and we go. I think last year we had like 85 people or something like that in 10 or 12 countries around the world.
That's amazing. Absolutely
Yeah,
amazing.
it's so good. It's so fun.
It's become a bit of a focal point for the RC community. Everybody starts talking about it. As soon as the sun starts shining, everyone's like, "Oh, it's got to be speedrun time." What's the chassis going to be? And there's just loads of chatter, loads of chatter.
What's the chassis this year? I know it's so many people. Like I get like little sneaky PMs every now and then. Hey, buddy, what's the chassis this year? Like, dude, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know what I'm having for dinner tonight. I certainly haven't selected a chassis.
I mean, my advice, talking from experience of previous speedrun challenges, is if it's a chassis that you've already got, my advice to you is if you're not precious about it, use that one, because having to build the chassis ahead of then thinking about how you're going to make it speedrun worthy is a lot of work. And last year I bit off far too much than I could chew. And I think I basically put my marker speed down with a silver can and got no further, and I was really disappointed. I think I was the slowest in the brush category last year, Phil. I was ashamed last year.
Oh, you were. I remember that.
That
Yeah.
is not happening this year. I've got a top secret brushed motor in, especially for this year. I think it might be sort of 4x wind or something stupid like that. It's
Oh my gosh.
ridiculously fast. Yeah, it's crazy. So
Awesome.
I can't wait to blow some chassis up.
And I think you might give a 4X wine. That's crazy.
This thing's so powerful. I put it on the bench and I tried to hold it. Like you hold a motor and you just give it a little to see how fast it is, and it shut out my hands. I couldn't hold the damn thing. It was insane.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I just hope that I don't break it. I had a motor like this before and I broke it before I got to put it in the car, so I hope I don't break it this time. It's ready to go. It's in the drawer. I know exactly where it is, and I'm not
Nice.
even messing around this year. I'm just going to put straight in. We're going full speed straight off the bat. No messing around.
You're going to need a pretty heavy duty ESC to handle
I've already got one. It's already there.
it.
Unlimited,
Beautiful.
unlimited
Beautiful.
power.
Beautiful.
It's unlimited until it melts.
Now you're speaking my language.
So what else is going on? We talked speedrun. That can't be the only thing you're planning.
Well, no, I've got a lot on the go. Man, where do I start? One thing I'd like to, it's in the essence of kind of keeping this thing on time. Uh, one thing I'd like to mention is that I've got a local hobby store here, BC Hobbies, who has decided to come on board as a pretty significant channel sponsor. So shout out to BC Hobbies. If you're ever on Vancouver Island and you need some hobby gear, make sure you check out BC Hobbies in the Hillside Mall. Absolutely fantastic brick and mortar mom and pop hobby shop. And
Amazing.
yeah, and they've come on board. They're gonna be sending some kits for me to be doing reviews on, which really it just helps a YouTube channel as small as mine. Cost is everything, right? We don't make much money at this level. So to have a sponsorship of this nature where they're gonna, send some cars over that I can review and not have to necessarily purchase, some demo vehicles that they kind of lend out to customers and they use for different demo purposes. To have my hands on those is a huge game changer for the channel. So once again, big shout out to BC Hobbies, and guys, I'm going to be getting just lots and lots more cool cars from them to make videos with on YouTube, and send 30 feet in the air up at the skate park and see if we can get it to land on the tennis courts.
That's amazing stuff. Shout out to BC Hobbies. Great work. That's what we want to hear. We want to hear about good sponsorship hookups like that. That's awesome.
Absolutely. And the fact that it's just like a nice little, it's a mom and pop shop. You and I grew up in an era when that's how we did things. It was
Absolutely.
just, it was always the local hobby shop. There weren't huge hobby shops. I mean, in the States there were, maybe in the UK, but certainly not where I live. There were no big hobby shops. It was just mom and pops. And so here we are again with a great local business that's stepping up to help out a small YouTube channel and grow together. So I am stoked for that.
Amazing. Congratulations. And, good stuff. That's what we want to hear. More of that sort of stuff, please. Cool.
What about you, buddy? What's going on over there?
Well, it's Orchard Raceway time. I'm out on the track. The first video's gone live this week. So that was the Terra Scorcher up against the Holiday Buggy. And I've got lots of groveling to do because I broke Mini OAG's Holiday Buggy. So I'm in big trouble. She's not very happy with me. And I filmed another four, was it 5 runs as well? So I've got plenty in the can now. I've got enough content to push out some videos for the next about the next sort of month and a half, which is great. But the UK's had a real purple patch of weather, so it's been nice and sunny. So I've been able to get out on the track and enjoy, some spring driving, which is my favourite time. I love being out on the track with the buggies. It's just the best. And then we had my nephews come over the other day, and we got the lunch boxes out on the lawn and another buggy, and we just tore up the lawn for half an hour with lunch boxes, and the smiles that these kids had on their faces were absolutely priceless. We had such a great time. They wrecked my borders. All my flowers were dead and trampled, and you know, but they had the time of their lives, so much that when it was time to go out, their mum came to pick them up, and they were in tears outside on the lawn with all the monster truck.
Oh,
It was just, it took me back, Phil, to being a kid and remembering being called in from having too much fun.
yeah.
And just going back to Peter's question, we were out there for half an hour with the lunch boxes, and the batteries just kept running. And we were on a couple of NIMs, but because they're only got 540 motors in, these things just kept on running forever. It was beautiful.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we
That's
had
the
an
power of the lunchbox, isn't it? The CW1 chassis is just nothing but smiles. They're so good.
There was a bit of upset because the one that I was running had a retro Homes Hobby retro sport motor in it, and it pulled a lot of wheelies very easily. And there was a lot of jealousy between the kids wanting to have a go on the one that did like instant wheelies all over the place because the other one was really struggling for some reason to get the front wheels off the ground. They just want to rip wheelies all over the place. We had so much fun. So I've been doing a bit of that. I've got a couple of builds that I'm sort of working through at the minute. I've got a lot of repairs to do because I've had a few crashes on the Orchard Raceway early doors, and I have smashed up some pretty expensive retro RCs. But hey, it's part of the fun, isn't it? So yeah, we've got that going on. Yeah, and then I'm looking forward to the speedrun challenge. If I'm honest, I love that every year. I enjoy it, even when I'm not running as much as I should be with it. I enjoy watching all the other videos of everybody else having fun. Every year, you get such a good group of people enjoying the hobby on that, and there's so much entertainment to have just by watching other people smash their cars up and have fun. So I can't
Yeah,
wait.
there's a ton of people. I've got a lot of great sponsors on this year too, which I forgot to mention earlier. As the channel has grown, as my YouTube channel's grown, and more fantastic sponsors have come on board, they've all stepped up and they're offering prizes to winners this year. So, one of the challenges we had in years past was that I live in Canada and I'm giving out gift cards for Canadian hobby shops. If you live in Switzerland and you win a $50 gift card for Canadian hobby store, it doesn't do that much good. So we've got prizes for people in the U.S. We've got prizes for people in Canada. We've got prizes for people overseas. Doesn't matter what country you're in.
Brilliant.
As long as you can deliver mail there, you're going to get something. So um, amazing. I can't reveal everything yet because that'll come in time, but It's going to be the biggest year yet. We've put a lot of effort into it already. This event is a ton of work, and it's a lot of fun, and it brings the online RC community together. A lot of people doing this are also YouTubers. It's a great time if you're a YouTuber and you want to grow your channel a little bit. Hey, listen, man, you're going to have a lot of eyes on your channel during this event. It's a great time to partake in it, and a lot of people are going to have their eyes on you. A lot of people have built their channels off of this event, gained many, many subs over the years, just by participating and kind of gaining exposure. So it's a great event for YouTubers that way as well. So it's just a really fun, win-win, great couple of months of crazy speedrunning. It's
Is it
awesome.
the fourth year you've done it? This is the fourth one.
This is year number 4. Yeah,
Wow. So that's the same as the Orchard Raceway. It's the fourth year of the Orchard Raceway. So we're both going to be celebrating our fifth year next year.
crazy.
I know. We should do some celebrations. I think there should be some. We'll have a cake. We'll get a cake.
I think you're right. I think you're
Yeah.
right. We'll have a cake. One of the special cakes is like shaped like the Orchard Raceway.
Oh, that'd be good, wouldn't it? And then what we'll do is we'll drive an RC car into it really fast.
Yes, get like a super slow motion camera. I'll take my Mojave 6S and just slam it. Look out, cake.
So there we go. It's a wrap. We've made it to an hour. What I'd like to say to everybody is Phil and I have been working on this now for what, three? This is our third one. 3 months we've been doing podcasts together, and we're constantly looking at ways that we can improve it. So we know that there's been some sort of sound quality issues between us over the time, and we've been working really hard to try and identify where those sound quality things are coming. Anything that you feel that you think we could do better, if there's a section that you'd like to hear us talk about, or if there's something, you've got the email addresses earlier, just drop us a note and tell us, what you want to hear, because we are trying to just create content and discussion points in a hobby that we really enjoy. So the best thing is when people can relate to what it is we're talking about and get involved as well. There's nothing better than in hearing people discuss something that you've suggested, or an idea that you've come up with. So just get in touch, okay? And we are listening. So with that, Phil, thanks again as always for joining me. It's always a pleasure to sit down and spend an hour chatting to you about our wonderful hobby.
Yeah, my pleasure, buddy. Thanks again for having me. This is awesome. I love it.
And he's been Phil, I've been Craig, and we'll see you all next month on Talks Tamiya. Goodbye for now.
Adios.